Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, your gateway to the tropes and trends of the horror genre. This is episode 80. It is our personal horror horoscopes. I'm Liz Williams, and I'm here tonight with
Mike Campbell
and Eric Lee.
Hi, guys.
Eric, I thought you were waiting for a some more accolades.
Okay. Where's my? I was going to get buttered up on this one, and it's like, look, it's super Eric.
Magnificent.
The great and magnificent Eric Lee,
all powerful and super wise Eric Lee, because the horoscope tells me so.
Yep.
So, Liz, tell us about this, because this was sort of your brainchild here.
So I was just thinking of movies from the year we were all born. I know we all have different years, so that would ensure no crossovers. And I was trying to expand my horizons and watch some quote unquote old stuff. I'm not going to call it old. We're not going back to the 50s or anything here.
Not yet.
None of us were born in the 80s or 90s, so we're going to go back a little bit here.
We will date ourselves.
Just to explore some stuff I hadn't seen before from the year I was born.
This is a challenge.
So what is your Chinese year, and what is your astrological sign, Liz?
I am a Virgo, and my Chinese astrological sign, I believe, is the snake.
Oh,
Virgo snake. And Eric is
I am a Libra rooster.
And I am a monkey Cancer.
Or a Cancer monkey.
Or a Cancer's monkey. I'm not sure what.
Sound good. Not that,
Liz, what is your astrological sign determined by, or what determines your astrological sign? Where do you fit in?
Oh, like rising and all that kind of stuff.
Well, no, not that. Just like what are the personality characteristics of a Virgo snake?
Normally like a little bit of perfectionists and neat freaks and kind of not OCD, but maybe some like minor anxiety. It's kind of true. I have to like put my pillows in order before I leave the house, stuff like that.
Where does the Lost Boys fit in though?
No.
And Eric, what are the astrological characteristics of a
Libra rooster?
Libra rooster.
Libras like lists. They like evaluating things.
Oh my God, they got that one right.
We're collectors. And the rooster part of me,
did you write this though?
I know.
This is a self-evaluation. Right.
This is. I fit the model pretty well, because then the rooster tends to be a look of me kind of a thing. So my habits of dress tend to be rooster-ish. I tend to talk a lot, and it's like, listen to me. Yeah. I'm important.
Right.
It's like, I may not be the biggest, baddest dude on the block, but I'm going to be the noisiest guy around here. So that's
AKA podcaster.
Yeah, totally. That's me. It's like I fit that model. So what about a Cancer monkey?
Cancer monkey, very energetic. They prefer action rather than planning. They don't like lists. They just like to wing it. They like to take initiative.
We're all getting like right on, and
they like to take initiative, but not really think through it.
I'm just gonna go ahead and stumble through this thing. Oh, this will work.
They're optimistic, versatile, and independent, and never afraid of difficulties.
There you go. That's Mike. Sweet. Now it'll be interesting to see how if there's any kind of a takeaway that we can take from the horror movies that were available from the year of our birth.
Well, yeah, I looked at that, and I looked at I did do not too much of a deep dive because
cancer
monkeys don't do that. I did a little bit of a deep dive and looked to see if there was anything that would steer me towards horror films, or any indication that I would be a horror film fan, and there was none, sadly.
Yeah, well,
I looked, but there wasn't anything.
For me, the lists thing and and the judge, the evaluator, and that is squared up right with, and it's also, things like football. You know,
Right.
There's things like and just statistics and politics and all that kind of stuff. I like being, and I also have the my father's tendency to be the Mr. Smarty Pants Know-It-All.
Right.
So,
AKA podcaster.
There you go. Ding. So okay, so who? So we'll let the young one start.
Yeah,
Liz.
All right.
Wait.
All right.
Wait,
so,
that's not me.
I used this as an excuse to push me out of my comfort zone. And unfortunately, I guess with the Virgo, I was disappointed. I wanted to go back into my comfort zone. So my year of birth is 1977. The year things that happened in 1977. Elvis died, the New York blackout, gas only cost 65 cents a gallon.
Wow.
I know, huh? In the rest of movie news, some things that came out that year. Star Wars, perhaps you heard of that one.
Hey.
Rocky, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Annie Hall, Saturday Night Fever, just a few small films. But no, where I went was the 1977 movie. I remember seeing this in the video store, and I'd never seen it, so I thought this was a good time to see it. It is the 1977 movie directed by Robert Wise, starring Anthony Hopkins, called Audrey Rose.
Oh yeah, right.
So, yeah, I feel like people have heard of this. It's a psychological horror, and it is about Anthony Hopkins plays a guy who lost his daughter and his wife in a car crash that took place right outside of Pittsburgh, which is also where I was born. So I was like, oh, this is like
in Romero Town.
Maybe it could be. I don't know. But he's creeping around New York City following this couple and their daughter, Ivy, because he thinks that his daughter, who died just a few minutes before Ivy was born, went into Ivy, and now Ivy is really Audrey Rose. Yeah. So what begins as a psychological horror turns into a courtroom drama. That
sounds like Amityville Horror.
It's not horror. The horror is how bad this poor little girl actress is. Her name is Susan Swift. She is, real bad. I think they were looking for a Linda Blair, a Reagan. Instead of recreating The Exorcist on this one, I feel like they kind of made The Exorcist 2, which also came out in 1977. Not good. Not good at all. She doesn't scream. She just shrieks, like these ear-piercing shrieks where I had to like mute the movie for like the whole scene because I was like, oh, I can't listen to her anymore. And Anthony Hopkins, it's Anthony Hopkins. I was
with the mustache,
something
though, right?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he does have that, but that's his disguise. He shaves that off
okay.
20 minutes in. Yeah, they even are like, aren't you this guy who's been following us around? He's just the same guy without a mustache.
So, okay, now I haven't seen Audrey Rose, but I've stumbled across it on some of my research. Now, I don't care if you spoil it, and you know,
I'm gonna spoil it.
Apologies to all of our listeners out there, but is Audrey Rose really his daughter, or was it all shenanigans?
Well, Audrey Rose is screeching and screaming, and Ivy, the girl whose name is Ivy, is screeching and screaming, and her parents can't get her to calm down. So Anthony Hopkins goes in there and he starts calling her Audrey Rose, and talks her through what happened, the accident. So we're also getting into some of that regression therapy of people thinking they could recall past lives, which was super hot in the late 70s, early 80s, and so. Yes, she thinks that she really is Audrey Rose. And while she's recovering these memories, Ivy and Audrey Rose both die. So that's where we go into our our courtroom drama. Because then he's got to defend himself, saying that he had gone to all these psychics and spiritual advisors and all these people saying that he has to justify why he kind of
interfered.
Stalked her and ended up driving her to her own death, thinking it was her daughter.
Well, this is right before Anthony Hopkins did Magic too. Yeah, I mean just right before. So he was kind of blowing up at that point.
And he did A Bridge Too Far was right around then.
Yeah. So
this one
was a big
not good. So listeners of Scariest Things, don't use this as your gateway. Use this as a stay away.
And it's this is
Liz's astrological gateway.
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
another dimension.
It's not good. But I had always seen it in the video store. It was something that I had recalled, and I've seen it on lists and things before. So I was really expecting something better. And what I got was like a cheap kind of Exorcist remake.
Oh man,
I think that's what for.
All right.
Bummer.
So.
All right, Eric, what do you got for your
as
number 3 on the terrible
as
trio
the
list?
middle child of our trio here, I have to go all the way back to 1969.
Oh my god.
Big 50. I just turned 50. So, to follow up on Liz's stuff, 1969 was a big year. We landed on the moon, right? So that's a big thing. And I think Richard Nixon started in the White House.
Right.
And we're still in the Vietnam War. And Woodstock happened. So it's kind of a crazy year. The movies that happened, there were some good ones. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Midnight Cowboy, Easy Rider, True Grit, The Wild Bunch. A lot of kind of countercultural movies hit the stage. Sadly, horror movies this year sucked. I'm picking 3 movies here, none of which I had seen until I had to do this exercise, and 3 movies that I really wasn't aware of. But the movies that I had to pass on, just to let you know that, this is what I was up against. The Haunted House of Horror. Ring a bell?
No, never heard of it.
Sounds like the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror.
Yes, it does. All Monsters Attack, also known as Godzilla's Revenge, also known as the worst Godzilla movie ever made. The House That Screamed.
Never heard of it.
Night of the Bloody Apes.
Never heard of it.
Nope.
Scream Baby Scream.
I have heard of that.
I didn't get around to it. The Curious Dr. Hump. Remember that? Mm-hmm. It's an Argentinian movie. It's like
Curious Dr. Hump.
It's kind of porno Quasimodo. I passed on that one. Didn't watch it.
Pornomoto.
Satan's Sadists, which is one that it's a biker movie.
That's Jack Nicholson. Isn't he in Satan's Sadists?
No, he's not.
No? Okay.
But it's about as rapey a movie as he possibly can get.
Oh my god,
it's really nasty.
Stay away from rapey movies.
Fear No Evil, but not the Fear No Evil that you might know. And the one movie that I was hoping to try and see if I could find, La Bambola di Santana. And
the Satanic Bowling Ball.
Yeah.
No.
Is that really what it means?
The Satanic Bimbo. I don't know. I don't know. It's La Bambola di Satana. It got a lot of buzz for being kind of sexy and gory, but you can't find it.
So what did you pick?
So I'm doing a Hammer movie is my first entry.
There you go.
Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed.
This one's tight.
Whoa.
It's a good movie.
Actually, I will say this is the best of the 3 movies that I got a chance to pick.
I almost picked this when we did the diversification of horror, the late 60s horror edition, which was episode something.
A long time ago.
Couple.
We've done so many episodes now that we're losing track of our titles.
It was good though. It's a very good film.
And I guess I should say this is not. I wouldn't say it's a classic, but it's watchable. I think it is. I think if you go in there thinking there's going to be the emphasis on Frankenstein's monster, you'd be completely wrong this time. And actually, I think the title suggests that Frankenstein himself is the monster, and it's Peter Cushing,
right?
In a fantastic performance. He is really manipulative, and he's smart, and he. It's sort of a prototype Hammer style movie, period piece, 1880s gaslight, of course, because it's Frankenstein. And in this case, makes a very strong point that, again, it follows what Dr. Frankenstein is trying to do, and he's completely despicable and nefarious mad scientist. It opens with a burglary in his castle laboratory, where there's some guy just trying to steal metal out, and then he stumbles into there's a dead guy in a jar, right? And he freaks out, and then he fights with Frankenstein, who's wearing a rubber mask. Guy gets away, and then Frankenstein realizes the gig's up. I gotta chuck all the stuff into my laboratory. He gets rid of the body, and he hauls all of his stuff away. The cops come, and these are total ding dong bumbling cops. They don't know what they're doing. and they can't say, well, I looks like he just left. I wonder who it was. And Frankenstein just goes into town and finds and answers a vacancy post from a woman named Anna, who is Veronica Carlson, lovely blonde hammer kind of,
Hammer beauty.
Hammer beauty. And but she and her fiance, who happens to work at the local asylum as a junior sort of psychologist doctor, they're also coke runners, which is like coke runners in the 1880s. And Dr. Frankenstein finds out about this. Well, one, he gets an apartment, and then he finds out that they're coke dealers.
Right.
And he holds that against them and forces them to be his indentured servants, lest he tell the officials that they're coke dealers. Because
Right.
it's like they'll get put away for 20 years. You don't want that. You're going to get married. You help me get some bodies. and what he's trying to do is he's trying to swap brains with his old partner and a new body. And so they take his old partner, who's currently in the asylum, where Carl, the young man, the fiance, they steal him away, and that he's going to attempt a brain swap, right? And that's his big thing. But he is manipulative and he's sexually abusive. It's like, oh, didn't know that part about Peter Cushing. It's like,
Was this Terrence
Fisher?
He did this one.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I know he didn't do all of them.
No, but this is
he did a gang of them.
And so eventually they start doing the operation, and the wife of one of the guys that they kidnapped and cut it's very Get Out, actually. They're swapping brains, like cutting off of a brain from a crazy guy and putting it in another guy, and then the sane brain goes into another, and because Frankenstein is trying to find out the secret to life after death, and apparently his old partner had figured it out.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it becomes a lot of hide and go seek, keep the stuff away from the cops and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of tension. It's it plays out more like a mystery suspense kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But certainly there's mad science going on, brain swap. And it's solid. It's moderately entertaining. I'd probably give it 3 stars.
And the good thing about all these Hammer films, they have all been re-released on DVD because they were somewhat not impossible to find, but there was like a lot of like really shady gray market DVDs or VHS tapes. You have to really dig.
There's a beautiful copy currently running on Amazon. If you download it, and if you're on Amazon Prime, it's free. Yeah,
or you can buy the DVD, because the Blu-ray versions of these Hammer films are really, really spectacular.
Yeah,
they're really great.
Yeah, I think there's been a big push, and I think a lot of the video, the streaming outfits are trying to absorb as much content as they can to outcompete, and I think the Hammer collection has been a big beneficiary. So, anyways, that's my number 1.
Amazon figured that out. Netflix has yet to figure that part out.
Netflix, get it together. You need a bigger library or better original content, particularly in the horror side. Mike, 1968.
1968, the Tet Offensive, the Democratic National Convention, Bobby Kennedy's shot. Martin Luther King is shot.
What a year.
What a year.
Mike Campbell is born. It's a disaster.
It's horrible. It is horrible. Yeah, I guess that's my grounding in horror. It comes all from 1968 and the trappings of 1968. Allegedly, my mom tells the story now somewhat. I think it's probably revisionist history at this point, but she tells the story about how she went to go see in the spring of 1968 some probably 7 months pregnant Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah. Devil Child.
But that is not the film I'm picking. I'm picking the 1968 American science fiction horror film starring John Carradine, Wendell Corey, and Tura.
Satana.
Yeah,
what you got? What is this?
This is Astro Zombies, directed by Ted Mickles. Ted Mickles, of course, if you're not familiar with Ted Mickles, he did such films as Dr. Sex, Genesis, Orgy of the Dead, Day of the Nightmare, One Shocking Moment, Agent for HARM, Harm, the Black Klansman, the hostage, Catalina Caper, the girl in the gold boots, the Astro Zombies, the Corpse Grinders, Children Didn't Play with Dead Things, Blood Orgy of the She Devils, the Doll Squad, and the Worm Eaters.
Oh, yeah. This is nothing but class.
Oh, my gosh.
B Movie Central.
Yeah. I can't remember who. Let me find this here because
Tura Satana alone worth the price of admission.
Tura Satana she is quite the character, and I think it was, let's see, Leonard Maltin awarded this the lowest possible rating. He gave it the bomb rating.
Yeah,
he had never given the rating to a film before. He gave it the bomb rating, calling it
Wow.
yet another nominee for the worst picture of all time.
Wow.
Whoa.
TV Guide jumped on the bandwagon because Guide
kick them while they're down.
Kick them while they're down. TV Guide panned it, calling it one of the all-time worst science fiction films.
So did you make it all the way to the end?
I did. I watched the whole thing and I kind of liked it. The plot follows a disgruntled scientist who may have been fired by a space agency. I'm using space agency in quotes, and he decides to create superhuman monsters from the body parts of innocent murder victims. So it's kind of like, not unlike Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I really liked about the film is that they basically took it's a space agency. The guy gets kicked out of the space agency. He decides his research is important. He needs to continue on with it. The space agency obviously says that's not advisable. There's all sorts of ethical considerations that you're not thinking through here. This experiment must be stopped. That's basically the plot. But of course they make it super complicated. They bring in all these ridiculous mobsters who are run by or the head of the mob is run by Tura Satana, and she plays this sort of sadistic sadistic foreign woman who is kind of vaguely Asian, but she could be anything, and she needs this information. She needs this science to take back to her country.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Tura Satana, picture Elvira in sort of in tight leathers and
yes.
and although I don't think in this movie she's like in primary colors for this one.
Primary colors, a lot of dresses, but she's like a very super bosomy, 6'4", Asian woman.
Yeah, and she will beat the shit out of you too. She's very aggressive, like a Faster Pussycat Kill. That's what I remember her.
She's
from.
very aggressive. At one point, she's interrogating somebody, and she decides the interrogation is over and just starts shooting them.
Classy.
Yeah. There's a lot of great things about. There are really, really a lot of great things about Astro Zombies. In particular, if you ever have seen, you have absolutely seen the poster for Astro Zombies. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you have absolutely seen the Astro Zombie.
We're gonna have to put that on the.
We will put that on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the American horror punk rock band, the Misfits, very famously covered the song "The Astro Zombies" on their 1982 album "Walk Among Us." And allegedly, Glenn Danzig, yes, that Glenn Danzig, he said that it was written from the perspective of the mad scientist, Dr. DeMarco, who was kicked out of
the space agency.
Yeah, go see Astro Zombies. It's a fun movie. And if you are looking for some late 1960s super campy romp, Astro Zombies will fulfill that need.
Yep. And you will get to say you've seen the worst movie of all time.
Possibly.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
But fun.
Yeah, but very fun. All right, Liz, what do you got for your number 2?
Okay. My number 2 is one I've also always seen the poster of or the DVD because this is a Criterion Collection movie. This is obviously made in 1977, and it is House, directed by Nobuhiko Obayashi.
Hausu. Okay.
Hausu.
Hausu, yeah.
Hausu.
Yeah. But also House.
Yeah.
House, yeah, on the poster is House. It's a Japanese horror comedy, and It is almost impossible to describe.
It is 100% impossible.
Sum it up. A high school girl named Gorgeous goes to stay at her aunt's house with her 6 other friends because her dad is got a new girlfriend and she doesn't want to spend the summer break with them. So she brings her friends, who are named Fantasy, Kung Fu, Prof, Sweets, Mac, and Melody to her aunt's house. And one by one, the house begins to devour them. This is a gonzo, crazy.
This is one of the weirdest movies ever made.
It's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. Manola Dargis from the New York Times described it as delirious, deranged, gonzo, or just gone baby gone. No single adjective or even a pileup does justice to House. So, I mean, I can't even describe it. The girls get eaten by the house. There is a piano that eats people. There is a mattress that eats people. There is a clock that eats people.
There's like a watermelon thing.
Yeah. Oh, there's a watermelon. Like there's a guy who sells watermelon on the side of the road, and they have a lot of talk about watermelons. They get one and bring it as a gift to the aunt. And then like they pull it out of a well that looks like a human head. I mean, not since Dirty Dancing has a watermelon played such a prime spot. It is bonkers. It is so crazy that when I decided to read a little bit more about the film, the director got his daughter like to give him ideas. And so
like
she
3
said
years
pretty
old?
much like, she wanted to make stuff like adults don't understand anything. Kids just like to have fun. And so that was what they took a lot of her ideas and put it into this film.
We talked about this film in episode 61 when we did Oddball Horror. Yeah. This was, of course, before Liz was
100%.
Yes, before Liz was a regular. And yeah, I think it truly does meet the definition of oddball.
I love the poster.
Yes.
The poster is amazing.
I love the poster.
The film's amazing, and I think the fact that the Criterion they jumped in on this and said, yeah, this film is actually kind of legit. I mean, it's legitimately bonkers. It's never been replicated, and no one's ever come anywhere close to it.
You can't try. I mean,
No,
it's like this thing's on magic
totally
mushrooms.
bonkers.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Absolutely
It's
is.
the definition of cult classic. I mean,
Yep.
they've played it here at some theaters. And I've just this was a good opportunity to say, I've always wanted to see this movie. And I was like, Wayne was like, well, tell me about the movie. I said, I cannot describe it. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
I'm sure he walked by and was like, what the hell?
Yeah. What the hell are you watching? So, I don't know what else to say except this is one to see. You
Just
won't
to say you've seen
regret seeing it. Yeah. Oh, sure. I just watched it this weekend. So definitely see it. You won't know what you've seen or how to describe it, and there's nothing else like it. It's worth a watch. It's short. It's only like an hour and a half, so it's not like you're gonna be sitting there for 3 hours watching it. And it's fun and weird. So
Cool.
give it a try. House.
All right. So my number 2. Now I start getting into this is where I really had to struggle with selecting films. So I'm going with an AIP film.
Yeah, there you go.
With 2 of the all-time greats, Vincent Price and Christopher Lee.
Oh, right? I know what you're
this
talking
is
about.
The Oblong Box.
Oh, I thought you were talking about The Devil Rides Out.
No, that was not this year.
Yeah. No, that was 68.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my year. Sorry.
Yeah, it should be on your list, pal. No, The Oblong Box, it's a story of treachery, double-crossing, and black magic. This is a slow-burning movie that features both of these classic actors, but in roles that are rather muted and benign for the horror veterans of their stature, right? So these guys, it's like...
I don't think I've seen The Oblong Box.
I don't know that you need to. We start off in an African tribal village in the 1880s where the tribe has captured a white man and tacked him to a wooden truss and are subjecting him to a whole lot of tribal magic. As the man screams, Julian, who is Vincent Price,
Uh-huh.
barges into the ceremony and wails, "No!" You know that
Right.
in way,
I
you know,
can-
Vincent Price chewing up the scenery.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
yeah.
You've done better Vincent Price in the past.
No.
Closer.
Okay.
Closer. You're getting there.
The man on the truss is his brother Edward. And why is he trussed up? Well, that's the turning point of the movie once we find out why. We fast forward to England where Julian and his henchman or his butler, he's rich, Julian is, and they're trying to prevent Edward, who is now horribly disfigured, from escaping the family castle. Now, this is one of those kinds of movies where there's a horrible disfiguration and they don't, it's like, it's going to be the big reveal. They're going to show him, but it's like there's always shot from behind. You can't see it. And it's like, oh, come on, show the face. And they don't show the face for a very long time.
Right.
So they chain him back into his room. And Vincent Price is trying to make an arranged marriage, or not an arranged marriage. He's in love with a woman who's maybe 1/3 of his age. I'm sure Vincent Price at this point is like in his late 50s and she's like 18.
Classy.
Yeah, nothing like a little bit of Cradle Robin. And anyway, so he goes, I want to get away from all this and all this castle. It's not, this is not a good place for us. But I have my brother, and it's like, but the brother is like, nobody's ever seen this guy.
Right.
He's chained up in the attic. But his brother has managed to scheme with the skeevy lawyer for the family to arrange that a witch doctor gives him a poison pill that makes him look like he's dead, so that he gets when he goes on view. They'll it's like when he dies, and then everybody will view the body, and then after that he can escape.
Right.
But instead, Vincent Price or Julian tacks his brother into a coffin, and asks to get another body from the same skeevy lawyer.
Yeah.
And so they go out and they kill a local innkeeper, bring him back, and they display him as his brother because nobody knows what he looks like.
Oh man.
So what this means is that Edward, the brother's plan has completely gone awry. They bury him alive, right? And he's unconscious. He's unconscious still, and he wakes up and he's alive in the box.
Right.
But he gets saved by some grave robbers who take his coffin and they're going to try and sell the body to Christopher Lee, who is a local scientist, biologist, mad scientist kind of guy who likes experimenting on dead bodies, and these guys are constantly taking graves, and it's like, it's a fresh body, and they open him up, and he comes out and he starts trying to strangle Christopher Lee.
Right.
And in this case, Christopher Lee is not the powerful Dracula or Frankenstein or whatever. He was like, or Count Dooku, right? He's just a scientist, and so this guy comes out and tries to strangle him, and then he realized that Edward realizes that the Christopher Lee character, Dr. Newhart, is up to no good experimenting on dead bodies. Then he goes, I'm going to report you to the cops.
Right.
And so unless you give me sanctuary so I can get my revenge on everybody who's wronged me. And he puts on him. And so Christopher Lee agrees to this. Edward puts on a mask and starts going around trying to exact revenge on everybody who's wronged him.
Right.
But it doesn't work out quite the way he planned. He gets beat up in a tavern by
Christopher Lee or Vincent Price?
No, neither. This guy Edward, who's the bad guy.
Okay.
So the villain here is this guy, is his brother Edward, who is played by a character named Alistair Williamson.
Okay.
So there's this movie is just full of crossings, double crossings. Everybody's got schemes.
Do the bad guys win?
They're all bad guys.
Oh, okay.
Right. And
do they
get
their comeuppance?
There's a lot of people get killed, and it has but it gives you also a great closing with Vincent Price. I'm not going to spoil it. But,
sure.
I'd say it's confusing. It's a muddled mess.
Sure.
I mean, I had to sort through this, and I had to read through the IMDb again a few times just to get the plot straight.
Right. Just like Astro Zombies.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that confusing.
But it's not. It doesn't have kind of the goofy, sexy quotient. Not here. And the other thing that is disappointing is that Christopher Lee and Vincent Price are really low key. Normally, these are characters who pop.
Right.
From the screen.
Yeah.
And they don't. They just kind of slum it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, I
it's a
mean, you
bummer.
kind of forget that, Vincent Price isn't always the campy evildoer that you think he's going to be. I mean, even in the case of like The Fly, which everybody associates with Vincent Price. I mean, Vincent Price is actually the good guy in that film.
Right. And he's not
he's not the bad guy, and he's not the Fly.
right. But sometimes you want House of Wax.
Yeah.
Vincent Price.
Yeah, you want some mustache mustache spinning, twisting, twirling.
Anyways, Oblong Box. It's not terrible. It's kind of confusing. It's got some fun double crossing kind of stuff. If you got a rainy day Saturday and you want to catch it, go ahead. But it's not.
Should it be?
You've got other things in the AIP catalog that you might want to go check out.
Should it be remade?
No, I don't think so. I think it would just be. I think it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Anyways,
all right. My number 2 is a film called The Green Slime, which came out in 1968. Apparently, the storyline for The Green Slime originated, and we've talked about The Green Slime a little bit here and there. We talked about it in the diversification of horror in the late 1960s, but it originated in Italy, where MGM apparently had a ton of dealings at the time in Italy, and there was an Italian filmmaker named Antonio Margaretti who had been doing a bunch of like sort of TV space adventure films called Gamma 1. And the Margaretti film, the films in the series, which I guess were like made for TV films, included The Wild Planet, War of the Planets, and War Between the Planets, and The Snow Devils. And they were all released kind of in the early mid-60s, like 64, 65. And MGM was so smitten with this whole catalog that they were like, yeah, we got to get this guy to do it. Okay. Of course, they didn't get that guy to do it.
It's a switcheroo.
They got almost an entirely Japanese crew to do it. Interestingly, the thing that was crazy was it was filmed in Japan. The Green Slime was filmed in Japan, but it had a predominantly Asian film crew. It had like all Caucasian actors,
right?
Even though it was all filmed in Japan, and these were like semi-professional Caucasian actors that just happened to be living in Japan at the time, which is so weird. It's like, why?
Casting call for white folks.
Yeah, casting call for white folks. Although the director, the entire crew, the editor, everybody else was Japanese. It's like, yeah, we'll get all these Caucasian.
I didn't get a sense of things getting lost in translation too much, but it's largely an action picture.
It is largely an action picture, and of course, as we talked a little bit about in the diversification of horror, it's a film that is you come to realize that Dan O'Bannon and Ridley Scott completely ripped off The Green Slime, because I mean it is literally the exact same story. I mean almost to the T. It is the exact same story. I have
to say, I love the aliens in Green Slime, because that's where I think the Japanese influence comes in, because they're kaiju like rubber suited guys waving tentacles around, these one-eyed, these things that would shuffle around, and they're great looking. I think they're fun.
Oh, they're awesome. They're awesome, and yeah, I mean, I guess it's interesting because you don't know if the sort of the inspiration for the Green Slime comes from a Japanese sensibility, or if it comes from an Italian sensibility, or if indeed, Dan O'Bannon and Ridley Scott really did draw out something unique. But the likenesses are uncanny. It's a corporation with a quasi-military function who requires a crew to investigate an asteroid, and the asteroid contains the Green Slime, aka an alien, who hitchhikes its way back onto the mothership. Some of the people on the mission want to study the aliens. Others want to kill them. The Green Slime, a.k.a. the alien, secretes an acidic-like substance that burns the crew and the ship. The Green Slime has an incredible ability to heal, resurrect, and procreate itself. The crew is able to jettison the Green Slime, but the final fight has to take place outside the ship, and only one crew member remains and is required to take the fight to the Green Slime.
Yeah.
You tell me that's not. You tell me Alien didn't completely rip that off.
I think it also says that the Green Slime didn't get a very wide release in the U.S. So it wasn't.
I don't know if it did. I don't know. I didn't look to see what the. I didn't see what the look with the.
An Italian-Japanese combo.
The box was on that film, but I don't really have the box on that. But Kinji Fukasaku, who I think I mentioned before, he should absolutely be straight up suing Ridley Scott.
Yeah, there should be some credits coming his way.
Yes, absolutely. All right, what do we got?
Liz.
All right. My number one, I kind of had to tap out from watching things that were too weird or disappointing. So I went with a classic. I believe
you
it's
picked some
in,
crazy ones.
Our top 10 of our top 100. And it's Dario Argento's Suspiria.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
I got to claim at least one really good one for 1977.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to say too much because we've talked about this multiple times, but this is the story of Susie Banyan, who's an American who goes to a ballet school in Germany. Weird stuff ensues, and she comes to discover that the school is being run by witches. So it had been quite a while since I had seen the Dario Argento or the original version. Mm-hmm. And it is so, the Goblin soundtrack is amazing, but the colors and things like that are so garish that I think, to me, and this is probably going to be controversial, I have now decided that I prefer the remake that came out last year.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Hot take. You heard it here first.
Yeah, it's going to be a hot take.
Heard it here first.
It's really good. I'm not going to say it's not good. It's creative. It's original. It's a classic. But man, if I had to sit down there and say which one I wanted to watch, I would prefer the new one. I don't know.
Yeah, because the original's not super short. It's like
it's
what?
Not.
It's like an hour and 40.
It's not as long as the new one, which is almost like 3 hours. Yeah, but it's a solid 2 hours.
Yeah.
And one of the taglines for this was like, the only thing scarier than the last 12 minutes of this film are the first 92. I was like, what? So
it's got a great opening scene though.
The opening scene is way better than the opening scene of the new movie because they don't keep that the same. And the opening scene, I think, of this movie is better than the next, probably 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Until you get to the climax at the end. So.
Isn't the opening scene of the remake of Suspiria, it's like a whole dissertation by the Tilda Swinton the male psychotherapist character?
Well,
they have the girl who I guess is the one who would, when Susie pulls up to the school in the original, she sees the girl running out and saying weird stuff. And I think that's the character in the new one, played by Chloe Grace Moretz. And she just goes to the Tilda Swinton psychoanalyst guy. I was trying to kind of do almost like a back and forth. I knew it wasn't an exact remake, but I think that's who that character is supposed to be. So
because I remember when I watched,
this one jumped right in with some super spectacular gore and colors and sets the mood for what you're going to say.
I think that the original it's a gorier film.
100%. Yeah,
it's much more stabby, slashy.
Yeah,
but I still think that magenta and cyan combination. It took a break for a little while, but it is now back. With things like Mandy. Particularly, and Framed is another one. Housewife. You're seeing a lot of young, independent foreign directors really attaching themselves, to that unusual color palette. There's something that's a little unsettling about it, and I think that one of the things that might
it is unsettling.
Yeah, it's weird. So,
but the new Suspiria goes with a completely different color palette. It's all muted and earth tones, which I just prefer that. This one, when I was watching it, I was like, it hurts my eyes. It's probably just the quality of the film or the way it looks, from the 70s. I don't know. Maybe seeing things the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then seeing it now, I don't know.
All right.
Some of the magic is gone, maybe.
All right. Well,
Suspiria.
You picked a good one, though. That's a good one.
It's one of Mike's all-time favorites.
It absolutely is. It definitely made my top 25.
So I've got one that's going to be my number one. It's number one by default, And this isn't going to end up on anybody's top 100.
Oh my God.
But have you ever heard of a movie called Eye of the Cat?
No, I don't think I have.
It's directed by David Lowell Rich. It's available for free on YouTube. It's written by the same writer of Psycho, Joseph Stefano.
This is like a reverse elevator pitch.
Yeah, it's like this is how to run a good idea into the ground.
It's 12 minutes long. It really sucks. You have to pay $100 to see it.
But this is still better than 10 other horror movies that were supposedly released in 1969. So it stars Michael Sarrazin as Wiley, who is a Lothario who with a fear of cats. It also stars Gail Honeycutt as Cassia, the wicked hairdresser. Eleanor Parker as Aunt Danny, a frail and wealthy woman, aunt to Michael Sarrazin's Wiley character, and his brother Luke, who is the brother being left out on a will. Because I will describe this as the mother of all crazy cat lady movies. The trailer promises lots of cat jump scares, but they really don't happen very often. I was really disappointed that we didn't get more cat jump scares because, as I have said before,
you love those.
I dig a good cat jump scare.
Yeah.
This is actually a fairly straightforward inheritance would-be murder mystery with lots of cats. So we are introduced to Danny, the woman, the wealthy woman. This is an elegant San Francisco socialite, and the opening scene. She has a severe asthmatic attack while getting her hair done at the beauty salon, and it ends up hospitalizing her. She is missing 2/3 of her lungs and is in constant risk of dying for lack of oxygen.
What?
So, her hairdresser, Carissa, takes a keen interest in Danny's plight, and then she goes immediately to visit Danny's nephew, Wiley, the bright-eyed, charming ladies' man, to discuss the situation. Because as it turns out, Aunt Danny left all of her considerable fortune in her will to the dozens of cats in her palatial estate. Okay, so her only potential heirs are her nephews, Wiley, and his dutiful brother Luke, who is actually taking care of his aunt,
Right,
with all the cats. And of course, Wiley doesn't have anything to do with his aunt, even though she loves him and he loves her, but he's afraid of cats, and she's got like 30 cats. So, and apparently he doesn't love his aunt that much because Carissa and he plan on getting a scam to claim the inheritance by getting Danny to switch the will over from the cats to him. Right, it makes total sense.
Does he have to convince the cats though to sign off on it?
Well, they have to get rid of the cats. So that's part of the trick. So the two of them
one by one.
And there are times when they trick them with like a big bowl of meat, and all the cats are jumping up. And I think there's actually real cats jumping up and trying to claim the meat. And the poor actresses who having to carry the bowl of meat around are just getting savaged by these cats who are going for the bowl of meat.
But they just need like a paw print signature, though.
Well, the cats. I think that's one of the things
they
they
do
never
have to
explain. How do you?
But they do have to
transfer
consent.
over a consenting cat kind of thing, and they're saying we need a witness, and so there's.
It can be another cat. It's fine.
It's weird. This whole thing is okay, and so I was going into this movie.
It sounds bizarre, though. It sounds funny.
It is.
It's the cat. It's the cat version of House.
Yeah. Well, it's not quite as psychedelic.
Well, there's a cat in house.
But the story is so convoluted. It took me good 2/3 of the movie. It was like, okay, I got the plot. I think I figured out where it's going. Who's trying to bamboozle
she
who?
left it to the cats.
Yeah, it's like, how does that work? And there's all these lawyers coming and going, and I was hoping for full-on cat carnage because the trailer indicated that there would be like piles of cats like in a car and attacking somebody. That would have been awesome. There is the movie does do some excellent tension and suspense buildup because
around the cats.
Well, yes,
yeah,
because Wiley is afraid of them, and they keep on trying to. It's like we've got a car full of cats. We're going to take them out and dump them in the bay. That kind of a thing. But they seem to come back. They're just like the cats. The whole 9 lives kind of a thing. There's all the best laid plans get foiled by just sheer stupidity by the would-be murderers, and there's some stuff where they just come out straight up. It's like, yeah, hey auntie, she's here to kill you, and it's like, okay, and it's like doesn't make anything of it. it's weird. It's
Yeah.
and as it turns out, it's kind of a hot mess.
Eye of the Cat.
The high points. It's
Yeah.
a good looking movie. Shows off San Francisco well. It also builds tension and suspense very well. There's a backwards wheelchair slide down of one of San Francisco's famous near vertical hills. And I always wonder how someone in a wheelchair navigates San Francisco. And this is one of those events where it's like, oh no, this isn't working.
And if you're a fan of cats.
Yeah. And if you're a fan of cats, and the cast is very attractive. So and lots of eye candy. Both the men and the women are just very, pretty group. Even frail Aunt Donnie is, it's like, well, I guess it's the rich,
Right.
They get all the breaks.
But what do the cats look like, Eric?
There's a black one with really green eyes. It's really, and then there's a tabby. The tabby is the one who causes most of the trouble.
There's an orange cat. There's a Siamese, and
Yes, that's so many cats. And the thing is, when they go after the meat, they're just savaging the meat.
I have the cat candy.
I give this movie 2.5 stars. This is a very average film.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, not scary at all. But they advertised it as a horror movie. I went out and did it, and I said, well, this is better than Satan's Sadists. So
that might be true.
Low bar.
That might be true. All right, much like Liz, who picked an absolute winner from 1977, yep. I'm picking also an absolute winner from 1968, Night of the Living Dead.
Had to be.
We have talked about this. We have talked about this a bunch. This is a film that cost $114,000 that George Romero had originally, I didn't even realize this. He had originally set aside $6,000 to make this film. It has now grossed over $30 million.
And it's showing again this week at the Hollywood Theater.
It is showing at the Hollywood Theater. And in fact,
cool.
in 2015, they took all of the original camera negatives and the audio track, and they did a 4K restoration that was undertaken by the Modern Museum of Art and the Film Foundation. And now they're showing like a full-on, they re-released a Criterion version in 2018, but at the MoMA, they show like a full 4K version of Night of the Living Dead. Oh. Yeah, I know. Just absolutely beautiful.
So MoMA trip.
I know. Absolute MoMA trip. The interesting thing was that it was quickly translated into a lot of different languages, primarily because of the fact that the copyright got kind of screwed up. They didn't put the appropriate copyright. I think it was both if I remember correctly, they didn't put the copyright on both the original screenplay, and then they didn't put the copyright in the original film, because the original film had a completely different title. And so then when it got released, people were like, all right, this is fair game. This is like, and it like immediately went into the public domain.
Yep.
Like almost immediately.
So this is one of the easiest films for you to find.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, but in 1969 alone, the Wall Street Journal reported that it was the top grossing film in Europe. It's grossed $30 million internationally, but in 1969, it was the top grossing film of the year.
Huh.
Of the year. Yeah. Of course, many different people have many different takes on this. Some people, take this as a civil rights discussion. Some people take it as, sort of George Romero's first sort of American or critique of American capitalism. Some people see it as like a critique on the Vietnam War. Many talked about, the zombies symbolizing sort of the repressed other in bourgeoisie society, like, homosexuals and feminists and counterculturals, et cetera. George Romero, of course, would never lay claim to really any of these things, except he would lay claim to all of them. And I think that's really the brilliance of the film, is that he was that mindful of the subject matter that, he knew that this could be translated in many, many different ways. And the zombie wasn't a single shambling monolithic thing. It was a lot of things to a lot of people.
Well, it is an apocalyptic, statement, of society eating itself. I mean, you can. There have been treatises and books written about.
Oh yeah,
Night of the Living Dead,
absolutely,
and its successors.
Yep.
But it is the touchstone movie. And I would have been hugely disappointed had you not picked this one. There would have been something very wrong with Mike Campbell if you did not take Night of the Living Dead.
Yes. I mean, 1968, I think, was was somewhat of a humdrum year for horror. I mean, you obviously had Rosemary's Baby. You obviously had Night of the Living Dead. You did have the Devil Rides Out, which we did talk about a little bit in the diversification of horror. But a lot of the other stuff that came out in 1968 was much like 1969. I mean, had 1969 had a Night of the Living Dead, it would have been a slightly better year. but
it didn't.
But largely everything else was pretty thin.
Yeah,
it was pretty thin.
Yeah, I think because there were some other big ones. And wasn't
74 was like a massive year.
60 was a gigantic year.
60 was a year.
60 was one of the
best. 60 was a good year. 74 was a massive year.
Yeah. And Invasion of the Body Snatchers, wasn't that 77 or was that 78?
That was 77.
Okay.
Or no.
No.
Yeah, we had this discussion before at one point.
Yeah, I think you had to correct me. So anyhow, so
yes, let's get to grave digging.
Well, let's review.
Yes.
So Liz, what were your 3 horoscope
films from 1977?
I had Audrey Rose, I had House, and I had Suspiria.
All right. And Eric, what did you have from 1969?
1969, the Hammer production with Peter Cushing, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. I also have the AIP film, The Oblong Box, starring Vincent Price and Christopher Lee, sort of slumming it. I have Eye of the Cat, which is a weirdo, crazy cat lady murder mystery.
If you're a cat fetishist, go see this film.
Yep.
I had the Ted Mickles piece of pure brilliance, Astro Zombies. Of course, The Green Slime and Night of the Living Dead. And I'm going to lead right on into grave digging.
Yeah.
With a little piece of grave digging. Apparently, the National Public Radio station in Kentucky is in the process because, sometimes visual gore and our modern sensibilities from horror are, so flattened and dead that you need a new take on horror. And the I think it's I'm going to blank here on the name of the production company, but the Louisville Public Media Performance Studio is running through October 31st a radio play of Night of the Living Dead.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So you can, if you are in Louisville, Kentucky, between now and October, on Thursdays through Saturdays at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 2 p.m., with a holiday performance at 7 p.m., you can see a radio play version of Night of the Living Dead. I mean, what struck me about this was, obviously, it was very timely for a variety of reasons, but most importantly, I thought, oh my God, that's actually pretty brilliant.
Radio plays are fantastic. I know that Gwen and Brian do that for the Lovecraft Film Festival, which passed through.
The Dark Adventure Radio Theater.
But
I mean, Night of the Living Dead, I mean, that's perfect for radio.
Oh, sure.
It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
I mean,
great.
the whole thing plays out like a play.
I think it'd be great to be the Foley guy for knocking down the doors and punching through windows and all that kind of stuff. That'd be so much fun.
Right. All right, Liz, what do you got for grave digging?
Well, the kids who are born in the year of 2019 will have some good movies to choose from, and one of them will be Little Monsters that I just watched on Hulu. So
it's out.
If you have Hulu, it's out, and it is hilarious and super gory. And even though there's kids in it, it is definitely not for kids. They are adorable in it, but put the earmuffs on the kids because, boy, it's got some absolutely terrible language. But it's a lot of fun. It's worth the price of Hulu. And if you don't want to get Hulu, sign up for those 7 days free and then cancel it. And you can watch the movie.
Get a review on the site up.
How is
really great? I'll work on that.
How is
great.
Lupita Nyong'o?
Oh, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's something else.
She does a really good rendition of "Shake It Off" by Taylor Swift on the ukulele.
Nice. So
awesome.
there's another fairly familiar actor who
Josh Gad, who plays Olaf the snowman in Frozen, is so kids would know him from there if they saw that. But he's in it, and I didn't recognize the lead, who's an Australian actor. I'll have to pull up his name, but the whole cast is great. It's really fun. The kids are great, and it is super gory.
All right. Well, I have a really fun grave digging thing that I've come across because I've been working on the horror movie Greenlight Pitch database.
I'm still waiting for that email, by the way.
You should have. I'll send it to you. Anyhow, but I spotted a strange movie when putting this database together, and this is when I was looking at Tippi Hedren's background. She did a movie called Roar. Have you ever heard of this?
Oh yeah, with the tiger.
Yes. This took 11 years to film, and this is it's weird. This is okay. So Tippi Hedren and her husband Noel Marshall, who was the former executive producer for The Exorcist, their daughter Melanie Griffith, and their sons John Marshall and Jerry Marshall. They decided they were enamored with wildlife preservation, and they wanted to do a movie about big cats and living with big cats.
Right.
And so what they did was they got a bunch of lions, tigers, and leopards and lived with them for a while.
Yeah.
But they had no idea what they were doing. These were not trained animals.
Right.
They were dangerous animals, and they called this the most dangerous movie ever made. It took 11 years to film, from 1970 to 1981, and in the process there were 70 injuries, some of them life-threatening for being around tigers, lions, and leopards.
Right.
For example, Melanie Griffith got mauled and had to have plastic surgery on her face, and then she dropped out of the film. Noel Marshall almost lost his arm. His hand was bitten through on the first day of shooting trying to break up a lion fight. He was attacked so many times he got gangrene. Tippi Hedren suffered a broken leg and a broken hand after an elephant incident where she got tossed from the back of an elephant. And that same elephant tossed its trainer into a tree, breaking her shoulder. John Marshall, their son, got bitten by a lion in the shoulder and required 55 stitches. Jerry Marshall, their other son, almost had his foot eaten off, and he had to spend a month in the hospital. Cinematographer Jean DeBont, who's actually gone on to some pretty good things, had his head scalped by a lion and required 220 stitches to get his scalp back on. This was the most dangerous movie ever made, and yet they played it as a fun family adventure romp. They finally released this in 2015 in the U.S. for the first time, now available on Amazon. I haven't watched it yet, but you damn well better believe that I'm going to watch this, because that just sounds...
I had heard of it.
Don't mess with Mother Nature.
That sounds fucked up.
Do not mess with Mother Nature.
It's like, after how many years do you figure out, and how many attacks you just like, no, stop. Don't do this anymore. These lions are attacking us, and they're still attacking us. It's like, it's such a. But there's some great pictures. If you look up, there's a picture of Tippi Hedren on the telephone with a tiger that's about a 500, 600-pound tiger jumping through a window, and it just dwarfs her. It's like 5 times her size. It's crazy.
Am I crazy? Didn't she have some property in Oregon at some point?
I don't know. Maybe maybe this was born out of wildlife safari down by Roseburg.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if there's a wildlife safari connection, but I could have sworn she had some property or some connection to Oregon as a result of all of her animal preservation activities.
Yeah, if I was Tippi Hedren, I wouldn't be so much into animal preservation after just seeing your whole family just get severely injured.
And what is the name of this film again?
It's called Roar.
Roar, that's right.
It is available on Amazon now. I'm going to watch it.
Roar. Okay, we will get back to you. We will get a review out on Roar, and we will get a review out on Little
Monsters.
Little Monsters. All right.
Stay tuned.
You got
Who's got a tagline tonight?
I've got one.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is the tagline to the movie. It's the tagline to the movie House, and it is. Get ready for the exclamation points at the end of this. Watch how 7 beauties were eaten. That's it.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Yay for House.
We'll see you next week.